fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy not so far away, chaos reigned. Star Wars wasn't just a movie. It was a battlefield of accidents, disasters, and unbelievable secrets that somehow forged the greatest space saga of all time. We're talking deserts that tried to cook the crew alive, stormtroopers bonking their heads on doors, a trash compactor that actually stank like real garbage, and even a young Harrison Ford who was never supposed to be Han Solo. These are 20 weird facts about Star Wars, and trust me, the truth is wilder than fiction. Number 1. Harrison Ford wasn't supposed to be Han Solo. Believe it or not, Harrison Ford almost never made it into the Millennium Falcon. George Lucas originally hired him just to read lines during auditions, a stand-in, while other hopeful actors tried out for Luke and Leia. Ford wasn't even on the casting list. But the second he opened his mouth, everything changed. His deadpan delivery, his perfect sarcasm, that smuggler's swagger. It all came out naturally, like he'd been living in Han's boots for years. Lucas scrapped his no-repeat actors rule on the spot and gave him the role. So next time you see Han Solo shoot first, remember, it almost wasn't Ford's trigger finger pulling it.
Everything's under control, situation normal.
What happened?
Hit a slight weapons malfunction. Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you.
Who is this? What's your operating number?
Boring conversation anyway. Luke, we're gonna have company!
Number 2. Darth Vader was actually 4 people. On screen, Darth Vader looked like one unstoppable villain. But in reality, he was a tag team effort stitched together from 4 different men. The imposing frame came from bodybuilder David Prowse, towering in the black armor. When the lightsabers clashed, Olympic fencing champ Bob Anderson stepped in, turning duels into deadly ballet. Of course, that booming voice wasn't either of them. James Earl Jones recorded Vader's dialogue in a studio, giving the Dark Lord his terrifying soul. And finally, when the mask came off in Return of the Jedi, that scarred face belonged to actor Sebastian Shaw. So when you picture Vader stalking onto the screen, remember, you're not looking at one actor. You're seeing 4 men fused into the galaxy's greatest villain. And speaking of strange casting choices, see what is next.
When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Number 3. The Stormtrooper Who Forgot to Duck. It's one of the funniest accidents in Star Wars history, and it made it into the final cut. During a scene aboard the Death Star, a squad of stormtroopers marches through a doorway. One unlucky trooper doesn't duck, slams his helmet on the frame, and keeps going like nothing happened. George Lucas left the blooper in because, helmet smash or not, it was the cleanest take they had. Years later, the head bonk trooper became a cult legend among fans, even getting his own tongue-in-cheek shoutouts in official Star Wars material. Number 4. The desert almost cooked the crew alive. Tatooine looked dry and desolate on screen, but filming in Tunisia was a nightmare. Daytime heat soared past 130 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to fry electronics and melt makeup right off the actors' faces. R2-D2's remote controls kept shorting out, forcing crew members to crouch in the sand and secretly push the droid along like a toy. Anthony Daniels, locked inside C-3PO's golden oven, was hit the hardest. Within minutes, he was on the verge of heat stroke, while other crew members fainted outright. Even the cameras gave up, overheating before the sun went down. So when you see Luke squinting at Tatooine's twin sons, remember, that wasn't acting. The desert was actually trying to kill them.
This place can be a little rough.
I'm ready for anything.
Number 5. Battle gear made from junkyards. The Death Star's crushing walls, the Falcon's corrugated hull, it all looked slick. But most of that sci-fi detail wasn't custom built. Lucas and his crew scavenged old airplane parts, broken electronics, bits of discarded machines, anything that looked weird and industrial. They glued pipes, knobs, and scraps onto surfaces so tightly you'd swear each panel had history. Every crease, rivet, and grill had a backstory, or at least felt like it. That's what makes A New Hope's design timeless. It's not shiny and perfect. It's lived in, scarred, real. So, when you see the Falcon speeding out of Yavin, remember, sometimes the galaxy's most impressive tech was born from something broken.
Stop lateral controls!
Don't worry. We're all together.
Hey, baby, hold together.
Number 6. Princess Leia almost had a different face. It's impossible to picture anyone but Carrie Fisher leading the rebellion, but it almost happened. Before she was cast, George Lucas auditioned a lineup of future Hollywood legends: Jodie Foster, Sigourney Weaver, Meryl Streep, even Angelica Houston. Foster was an early favorite, but a Disney contract pulled her away. Imagine Leia as a teenage babysitter instead of a fiery leader. That was nearly reality. In the end, Lucas rolled the dice on a 19-year-old Carrie Fisher, relatively unknown at the time. She wasn't polished, but she had fire, wit, and an authenticity no one else could fake. That gamble didn't just work, it gave us an icon. So the next time you watch Leia stand toe-to-toe with Darth Vader, remember, by a twist of fate, the rebellion almost had a completely different leader. And while the princess was locked in, the studio was still panicking over something else entirely: the film's rating.
Too little short for a stormtrooper.
Huh? Oh, the uniform. I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
Number 7. Fox begged for a harsher rating. When Star Wars wrapped, George Lucas thought the movie would be rated G, just like a Disney flick. No blood, no swearing, no adult scenes. But 20th Century Fox didn't want the movie looking kiddie. They were terrified teenagers would skip it if it had the Disney-style G slapped on. So Fox did something unheard of. They begged the ratings board to push it up to PG. It's one of the only times in film history a studio asked for a stricter rating on purpose. And it worked. Slapping that PG on made Star Wars look cooler, older, and instantly more appealing to the teens who turned it into a cultural earthquake.
Been waiting for you. You didn't think I was gonna run, did you?
Number 8. The opening crawl was filmed, not coded. That iconic yellow text sliding into the stars looks so smooth you'd swear it was digital. But in 1977, CGI wasn't even on the table. Instead, the crew built a 6-foot black surface, pasted giant yellow letters on it, tilted the whole thing, and inched a camera across it frame by frame. It sounds simple, but one speck of dust or a flicker of light meant starting over from scratch. Hours under hot lamps, moving a camera slower than a Jawa on vacation, all to make words crawl into the void. Today, a computer could knock it out in 5 minutes, but knowing the original crawl was crafted with sweat and patience makes it legendary.
Half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Who's scruffy looking?
Number 9. Lightsabers were made out of sound scraps. That unforgettable hum of a lightsaber didn't come from some futuristic machine. It came from junk. Sound designer Ben Burt mixed the low whir of an old film projector with the electric buzz of a TV set's picture tube. Then he waved a microphone past a speaker to create that swoosh when the blade moved. The result? A sound that wasn't just heard. It was felt. Fans didn't need to see the glow to believe it was real, because the saber already roared in their ears like a living weapon. Number 10. Han and Leia's romance was real. The fiery chemistry between Leia and Han felt too good to be scripted. And that's because part of it wasn't. During the filming of A New Hope, Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford had a secret 3-month affair. She was 19, he was 33 and married, and somehow they kept it hidden for decades. Fisher later revealed the truth in her memoir The Princess Diarist, calling it Han and Leia during the week, Carrie and Harrison on the weekend. Fans had always swooned over their banter, not realizing that some of the sparks were real. So the next time you hear Leia say, "I love you," and Han smirk, "I know," remember, those lines carried more truth than anyone watching realized. Pretty crazy so far, right? And we're only halfway. Stick with me because the next round of secrets is even stranger. Coming up, the genius trick that made Luke's land speeder look like it was hovering, the behind-the-scenes accident that scarred Mark Hamill for life, and the reason the Empire's deadliest commander ruled the Death Star in slippers. You do not want to miss what's next. Number 11. The droids hated each other in real life. On screen, R2-D2 and C-3PO were inseparable, a mismatched pair that bickered their way through the galaxy. But behind the costumes, the actors could barely stand each other. Kenny Baker, the man inside R2-D2, often complained that Anthony Daniels' C-3PO treated him like he wasn't even there. Daniels, meanwhile, once dismissed Baker as just a man in a can. Their frosty relationship turned every shared scene into a quiet tug of war. So when you hear C-3PO snapping at R2, remember, that wasn't just acting. It was two real men stuck in metal shells, trading side-eye behind the galaxy's most famous friendship.
That's funny. The damage doesn't look as bad from out here. Are you sure this thing is safe?
Number 12. Luke's car wasn't floating, it was mirrored. When Luke cruised across the Tatooine desert in his trusty land speeder, it looked like a glimpse of the future. A car that actually hovered. But the truth was pure movie magic. The crew mounted the speeder shell on top of a car chassis, then hid the wheels with angled mirrors running along the sides. From the right angle, the mirrors reflected nothing but sand, tricking the camera into showing a perfect hover. No CGI, no computers, just reflections and sunlight doing all the heavy lifting. So the next time you watch Luke zip across the dunes, remember, he wasn't driving a floating car from the future. He was cruising in the galaxy's most elaborate optical illusion. Number 13. Lightsabers were just shiny sticks. Those glowing blades that defined a generation of fans weren't born from CGI. They were built from junk. The crew hacked together the first lightsabers using old Graflex camera flash handles for hilts. For the blades, they attached thin rods, wrapped them in reflective tape, and blasted them with bright lights so they shimmered right on camera. It worked surprisingly well, even casting real glows onto the actors' faces during duels. But the trick wasn't perfect. If you pause A New Hope in the right frame, you can actually spot the taped poles before the special effects team added the glow in post. Number 14, Mark Hamill's accident rewrote the saga. Just months before A New Hope hit theaters, Mark Hamill was in a brutal car crash that left him with facial injuries and a broken nose. Surgeons rebuilt what they could, but his appearance had subtly changed. Instead of ignoring it, George Lucas did what Star Wars always does. He wrote around it. That's why The Empire Strikes Back opens with Luke being mauled by a Wampa on Hoth. On screen, it's just survival drama. Behind the scenes, it was Hollywood damage control, giving Luke an in-universe reason for looking different. Hamill downplayed the accident for years, but if you look closely in those icy Hoth scenes, the scars are right there. What fans thought was just another monster attack was actually a clever disguise for real-life injuries. Number 15. Grand Moff Tarkin ruled the galaxy in slippers. Peter Cushing looked like pure menace as Grand Moff Tarkin. Sharp uniform, cold stare, total control of the Death Star. But under the table, he was cozy as a grandpa by the fireplace. The costume boots pinched so badly that Cushing flat out refused to wear them. His solution? Swap them for soft carpet slippers. That's why so many of his shots are framed from the waist up. From the chest down, he's the Empire's deadliest commander. From the ankles down, he's ready for a nap. Number 16. George Lucas nearly collapsed making Star Wars. For the cast, filming was brutal. For George Lucas, it was life-threatening. He was juggling blown budgets, missed deadlines, broken equipment, and endless studio pressure. Industrial Light and Magic was pulling 20-hour days, racing to finish effects, while Lucas rewrote and reshot scenes like A Man Possessed. The stress finally caught up to him. He was hospitalized with chest pains brought on by exhaustion and hypertension. At one point, people seriously wondered if Star Wars would ever be finished, or if it would finish him first. But Lucas pushed through, fueled less by health and more by obsession. So when the credits roll with directed by George Lucas, it's not just a title card. It's proof he survived a war zone of his own making. Number 17. C-3PO's costume was pure torture. Anthony Daniels didn't just play C-3PO, he endured him. The golden suit looked shiny on screen, but inside it was a medieval torture device made of fiberglass, aluminum, steel, rubber, and plastic. In the Tunisian desert, it basically turned into a slow cooker. Daniels lost nearly 4 pounds a day in sweat, collapsed more than once, and couldn't even sit down between takes. The costume pinched, sliced, and crushed him in places most people don't even have muscles. At one point, a fiberglass leg shattered and jammed shards into his foot. Crew members had to prop him up like a mannequin just to keep filming going. Number 18. The opening crawl was saved by Brian De Palma. When George Lucas screened a rough cut of A New Hope to his friends, the feedback was brutal. The biggest problem? Nobody understood what was going on. Lucas had written 6 giant paragraphs of dense backstory to explain the galaxy, and it played like a history lecture. That's when Brian De Palma, director of Carrie and one of the biggest names in Hollywood's new wave at the time, stepped in. He looked Lucas dead in the eye and basically said, "This is nonsense." Then he rewrote the whole thing into a tight, punchy crawl. The version you see at the start of A New Hope, the one that instantly drops you into the fight between rebels and the Empire, was shaped by De Palma's hand. So, the most iconic intro in movie history? It exists because George Lucas's buddy called him out and forced him to cut the fluff. Number 19. The trash compactor was real trash. That slimy Death Star garbage pit wasn't just a set filled with harmless props, it was stuffed with actual garbage and water that quickly went rancid under the studio lights. The smell was so foul, the actors could barely breathe. Mark Hamill said it was one of the worst experiences of his life on set, and he even popped a blood vessel in his face during filming from holding his breath so much. Number 20. Luke Skywalker was almost Luke Starkiller. Star Wars could have had a very different ring to it. In George Lucas's earliest drafts, the hero wasn't Luke Skywalker at all. He was Luke Starkiller, and the title? The Adventures of Luke Starkiller, as taken from the Journal of the Whills, Saga 1, The Star Wars. Try putting that on a poster. Lucas eventually ditched Starkiller, worried it sounded too violent for a hopeful young hero. But he didn't throw it away forever. The name came back decades later in The Force Awakens as Starkiller Base, the First Order's planet-sized weapon. Star Wars wasn't built in some perfect Hollywood dream factory. It was forged in sweat, chaos, accidents, and pure obsession. From deserts that tried to cook the crew alive, to monkeys almost replacing Yoda, to secret romances and hidden films that fans are still uncovering today, the story behind the saga is every bit as wild as the galaxy it created. And maybe that's the real magic. Star Wars reminds us that vision doesn't have to be clean or easy. It just has to be unstoppable. Decades later, the battles on screen still thrill us, but it's the chaos behind the cameras that proves legends aren't born, they're made. So, what weird facts shocked you the most? Drop it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this wild trip through Star Wars history, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us for more strange stories from the galaxy and beyond.